Hello, my name is Lena Moxon. I am a life purpose coach and somatic activated healer. And I want to jump in and grab your attention before you go ahead and look to the new year that is literally just around the corner now, and set yourself up to ultimately experience a sense of despondency and failure and a lackluster experience of life yet again. As we move towards a new year, it's so easy to get caught in the energy of renewal, right? And I don't think there's anything ultimately wrong with that, right? Stopping, pausing, reflecting, considering what we might like to stop, what we might like to keep, what we might like to start is never necessarily a bad thing. But what I think we have to finally graduate ourselves from is this belief that if we can just crack the code of figuring out what it is that we are supposed to do in this life, then we're going to experience this elusive, constant state of satisfaction and happiness, right? I'm 36 years old and I've tried a lot of things in my life, and I have really experienced the height of success in different areas in different ways. And ultimately, I think if I'm truthful, it's made me a little jaded. It's made me a little bitter. I am at a phase and stage in my life where I'm struggling to find the same motivation that once supported me in building the momentum behind all of the doing that was needed and necessary to keep up with the pace of this life in this world. If you are buying into the belief, right, that what we do and what we buy and where we live and how we are perceived by our community is ultimately what is going to give us a deep sense of satisfaction. I worked really hard to do all the things, to be seen in all the ways, to have access to all of the things that I thought was going to make me feel like I was fulfilled, I was whole, I was complete. And it left me very unsatisfied, right? And so I have been a woman who has been willing to pierce the veil. I've been willing, more than pierce the veil, I've been willing to pull back the curtain, right? And see that beyond the show and demonstration that has been presented to us in our lives, right? Right from when we're children, it's always been if you show up in this way, if you prove yourself in this way, if you get these gold stars, if you achieve this thing, then you will be seen and celebrated and affirmed, and it will feel good for you, and life will feel good for you, and you'll feel good about yourself. I've pulled the curtain back on that and looked behind that big stage show, and I've realized and recognized that this has all just been a little bit of a shit show. It has been the blind leading the blind, right? And it can be really disorienting when you decide this path is not my path. And I'm living a life now where I truly believe that the way always finds me, right? And I always find my way. And that in a lot of ways, the way reveals itself on the way. Did you keep up with that? Right? So what I'm saying is ultimately I've stopped thinking that there is any one fixed goal, any one fixed destination, any one thing that I have to work out how to do that is going to gift me and give me a state of being that is going to allow me to not just be terrified that I'm doing life wrong. And I think for most of us, that's the hard part about it. We're getting up day after day and we're trying to motivate ourselves to build momentum behind the things that we think we should do. And there's this constant questioning. The older we get, definitely it starts to get louder, like, what's the point? And am I missing the point? And am I doing this life right? And am I going to regret the way that I'm showing up? And so the work that I do with women is really, really important and pivotal when you get to that question, right? What's the point? And who am I really? And what truly matters? And how do I want to experience life? When we get to the point in our lives where we begin to ask those questions, and we're asking those questions of ourselves for ourselves, right? We've asked the questions of the people around us and we've been unsatisfied with their answers because we can smell bullshit. And even if they can give us an answer, we kind of look at them with a clarity and a knowing that they're not really sure either, right? What's personal is universal. So you can best believe if you're struggling to make meaning, if you're struggling to truly understand what the point of getting up every day and going to these jobs and seeing the same people and, pretending our way through life, if you're really kind of feeling into that for yourself, you'll know that when you're asking yourself, what's the point? You're not actually asking, right? For the peanut gallery to give you an opinion and their advice. You're genuinely asking, what's the point? And hoping that a truth arises within you. Or if you're like me, right, you're desperately trying to open up channels so that you can hear with some sense of clarity the guidance that might be given from a higher source that has the perspective that we're longing for in this life. What my offering is, as you move towards the new year, is that you don't allow yourself to buy into the belief that it's just working out what you will need to do in order to feel better. In the doing, it keeps us busy, it keeps us focused, it gives us something to kind of fixate on so that we're not aware of the feeling of despondency that's rising within us. It can feel really good to be in the slipstream of achievement. And I witness this within myself again and again and again. As I witness myself consider like, should I aim the bar a little higher in my business? Or, I've used my body many times over to give me that sense of achievement, to give me that sense of progress, to feel like my life was worth something and getting up day after day after day had meaning. And if I stop myself from fixing these arbitrary goals that ultimately, right, take us to the top of mountains that are pretty meaningless. We look out at the view and we're like, is this it? I worked so hard to get to this peak and that's it. Cool. I could have seen that from from the ground. I didn't have to work so hard to get here for this, right? And you decide like, I'm no longer going to bullshit myself in thinking that these goals that I set actually matter and are actually meaningful and that anybody else cares or that I even care. Then what do we do? What do we do with our time? What do we do with our energy? And I think the deeper question is, how do I distract myself from the impending sense of doom that threatens to overcome me if I don't keep myself busy? How many of the things that we are doing are just desperate bids for us to stay busy so that we don't allow ourselves to sink into that sense of despondency, that impending doom that arises when we look around and we realize none of this is bringing me joy. None of this matters to me. And more as I look around me, I realize that all of the things that I was told about what life would reveal to me if I showed up in a certain way and I did certain things have come true. But in the experience of those things, I realized that I thought they were going to be something that it's not really, right? And you might have experienced this through relationship. You might have experienced this through the accumulation of material possession. I might have worked really hard to secure a certain position within your career and you're there and it's good. And you can feel a sense of pride that you did the thing that you were going to do, but now what? And it just feels like this never ending cycle of bullshitting ourselves by fixing some goal as the prize and then getting busy and creating meaning through working towards that and then getting there and realizing this isn't shit. But maybe it'll be the next thing and maybe it will be the next thing. My friend, I don't think there's a thing coming that you're ever going to experience that is going to give you the deep satisfaction that you're longing for, that is needed and necessary for us to stop suffering within our own lives and within our own beings. So I guess the audacious request that I'm making to you is that for the new year, you don't allow yourself to just be swept into the collective conversation around what are you going to achieve this year and what's your word for this year and what are you going to tell yourself is going to make the difference this year, because there's nothing that we can do that is ultimately going to override any sense of not enoughness within us. And I think that's something that we don't talk about enough. Like when we're setting goals outside of ourselves, when we're demanding that we witness ourselves in a certain way, achieving something or attaining something, right? What we're actually declaring is, I don't feel enough as I am. And I'm going to allow myself to believe if I just do this thing, then I'm going to feel better, stronger, wiser, more affirmed, more validated, more accepted, like I belong, like I'm celebrated, like I'm enough if I just do this thing. And so my audacious request is that you suspend the compulsion to let the goal be the thing that's going to make you feel better about yourself within yourself. And you actually surrender yourself to learning how to be satisfied in the moment that you are in with yourself and as yourself, no matter what arises. And this is where somatic work comes into play, right? We're giving the coordinates back to our bodies to learn how to be with ourselves in the moment that we are in without trying to shift, change, adjust, or gaslight ourselves into thinking that the future version of us is going to be so much better than what we are experiencing here and now. And I know this can be really hard to hear if you're having a really tough time being who you are right now. And that's something I'm very much experiencing for myself. I'm really going through it within myself right now. If you read the pages of my journal yesterday, I think you would be seriously concerned. I smile and I laugh, but there was a part of me yesterday as it all kind of came out onto the page in front of me. I was a little concerned for the darkness of that part of me that is very much coming to the forefront and refuses to be ignored, refuses to be denied. And so I'm having to learn how to be with that part of me that feels depressed, that feels disgusted, that feels depleted, right? I could try and override that part of me by saying, like, don't worry, we're going to do this thing, we're going to achieve this thing, we're going to go to that place and it's going to be better there, right? And I just squash that part of me down and I activate the parts of me that very much know how to be motivated and uplifted. And, you know, I activate the part of me that is like, yes, hustle culture, let's go. Let's ramp it all up. Let's do the things. Let's say the positive affirmations. Let's, you know, do all the things that I know that I can do. But the wisdom comes through to tell me you've done this a million times over. And that part of you still exists. That part of you that finds it meaningless still exists. So how can I truly just learn to be satisfied where I am with what I've got, with who I am here and now, so that I'm not spending my life constantly chasing some elusive goal, thinking that if I can just do the right thing, if I can just work out how to achieve a certain thing, then I'm going to feel better. When is enough enough? When are we going to stop lying to ourselves? When are we going to decide, like, I'm truly exhausted? I'm truly, truly exhausted. And I don't need to rest. I need to stop doing this to myself altogether. I need to activate a new way of being. I need to have the audacity to declare, I'm not playing this fucking game of life in this way because it's not fun. I am not having fun, right? I'm tripping up over this constant comparison and insecurity and imposter syndrome and, I don't know, re-traumatizing experience and existence that we are all kind of just looping in and out of. I was scrolling on my Instagram earlier today and I just thought, like, wow, we're all in a state that we're just sharing everything so openly, and I'm doing it here and now, right? But what are we changing? Apart from narrating our experience, apart from bringing some awareness, maybe some articulation to certain things that we're noticing or witnessing or experiencing, what are we actually doing? What are we activating? What are we deciding? What are we declaring for ourselves? What is it that would have to change within you? You know, when you start deciding that I'm no longer going to try and do something to feel better about myself, I'm going to allow myself to find out what it means to truly be myself, you start making these slight energetic shifts within you. These slight energetic shifts that have never been seen before, and they're not a replication of anything else that you've seen around you. They come from the base of your being. These are the energetic shifts that are unique to you. And when you allow yourself to start communicating to the world from the base of your being, through the energy that you emit, through the way that you speak, through the way that you present, through the ideas that you have, through the way that you move, right? You become captivating. You become captivating. People are magnetized to you because what you become is a truer expression of who you truly are. And I think that's what the world needs from each of us. But we've been so busy trying to cut parts of ourselves off to fit in the mold that has been handed to us since the day we were born, right? By well-meaning caregivers and an education system that is questionable, and just society at large that has said, this is what it means to be a good person, a successful person. Get yourself in here. And so we've spent our whole lives whittling ourselves down to try and fit into a mold that we're now waking up and realizing was never all that. And I think that's a hard truth for us to fully accept, because we realize now, wow, so much of my one beautiful life, so much of my energy, my time, my resources, my belief, and my faith has been invested in something that was never going to serve me. And we can get mad. We can get mad at society at large. We can get mad at education systems. We can get mad at our caregivers, right? And that anger, that sense of entitled anger, will probably feel good. It will probably feel good because anger makes us feel powerful. It makes us feel in control. But ultimately, right, we're still not changing anything. We're still not deciding and declaring anything for ourselves. We're still not activating a sense of agency. What we need now more than ever from each one of us is the reclamation of our own free will to activate that sense of agency that says, I'm going to turn inwards and I'm going to feel what's there at the base of my being. And I'm going to get to know that. And I'm going to take my time and I'm going to be with that. And I'm going to work really hard to discern what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it tastes like, what it smells like to be me, without outside influence dictating what that should be or how I should be received or how I should show up. It's really hard for us to turn inwards and know what feels true for us when we've spent our entire lives looking outside of ourselves for approval, right? Everything that we have ever tried, everything that we have ever demonstrated, everything that we have ever presented as an expression of self has either been confirmed or denied by the people around us as being valid, as being worthy, as being acceptable. And so we've decided, based on the reactions of the people around us, whether we should be more or less of what we have just transmuted and brought through. And so who we have become, more than likely, has not been an expression of our truth. It's been a twisted, contorted version of what's come up through us and how we could best manipulate that to meet the masses in a way that has felt safe for us to be received, to feel like we belong, to feel like it's, interesting enough that we don't feel boring, but not so interesting that it becomes a threat, right? So we're having the audacity to do these somatic activated healing sessions, to turn inwards, to feel what it's like to be us, and then to get to work in really understanding how much can I reclaim what's true to me, what comes to me, through me, as me, in a really unique way. And imagine if we all did that. Imagine if we turned inward and we really felt what was true for us, what we felt compelled to do, the way that we might like to speak or share ideas or move. And we just became more of who we actually were always intended to be, rather than living our lives as these kind of mass-produced robots that we have become. Our goals for the new year either kind of are the wind up behind us that keep us going for another new year, that keep us moving, that keep us denying that none of this feels good, or not. So if you don't want to set a goal for yourself, because you know that even if I get there, it doesn't mean shit, and I will be here this time next year thinking, okay, what else can I do to just keep me moving? If you don't want to do that, then there is work for us to do. There is work for us to do in learning, how do I turn inward, and what does that even mean? How do I come back into my body? How do I activate the experience of potential and possibility within myself? What does that look like? Because no one's ever taught us this. No one has ever taught us how to turn inward and understand what it means to play with our own potential and to know that we have infinite potential, and to know that we are actually given the opportunity in this life to play with as many iterations and expressions of self as we like. We've all been kind of sold into this idea and belief that we're supposed to find this one authentic expression of ourselves, and that we're supposed to perfect that. And then we're supposed to show up with that consistently, demonstrating that authenticity. What would it feel like? What would it be like to suspend the idea of authenticity and truly get in the energy of creativity, of free expression, of potential and possibility that allows us to stretch ourselves more and more every day, to experience ourselves as new every day? You know, one of the things that I always prompt women to do as we do these somatic experiencing exercises, when we turn into the body and we're asking ourselves to just move the body and feel the body, is to move the parts of your body that you may not have even acknowledged were part of you today, right? Like, I'm talking about the little bits and pieces of our body, the in between our fingers, the behind our knee, the bringing awareness to the parts of us that exist as us but are never fully acknowledged. And it's not about moving literal physical parts of our body. That's kind of a beautiful metaphor to show and share that we think we know who we are, and that we're relating to ourselves based on the big obvious movements or parts of us and our being. But there is so much there that has just been kind of left unacknowledged, unexplored, unexpressed, that is just there, waiting, willing, able to come through us. And so turning inward and being with ourselves and just feeling into the experience of being us, human, here on this earth, can be revolutionary, because we've spent so much of our time and our energy and our resourcefulness in this life simply asking ourselves, how can I use myself to produce something that will be accepted? How can I use myself to replicate a success that has already been experienced by somebody else? Makes no sense when we say it like that, right? Why are we replicating what has already been done, what has already been experienced, what has already been transmuted? Because we believe that somebody else's success, somebody else's satisfaction, somebody else's achievement is going to feel for us that the way that it felt for them. Not true, because it wasn't designed for you. It wasn't destined for you. It's not going to fulfill you, because what will fulfill you will come through you, will come from you. And until you believe that, you're going to spend your life running in circles, feeling like you're getting nowhere. That's a hard truth that you didn't ask for today, that I've accepted for myself in this life. And like I said, I was pissed off. Spent over 10 years dedicating myself to replicating and doing it well and creating success, following somebody else's path, and truly activating the same success, witnessing myself achieving the same results within my business and within my life. And I had all of the things, and it looked exactly as it was supposed to look. And it didn't feel like anything that I wanted, because that desire had never truly been mine. It had never been destined for me. I had just bought into the belief that that was success and that would make me successful. And that if I could replicate that version of success, then I too would be satisfied. So what is it that you want? What is it that you could feel? How does it truly feel to be you? If you don't know, that's okay. But while we still have time, and while you still have a body that is willing and able, I urge us all to spend at least, like, I'm not talking about doing it like 24/7, but have it on your schedule that you're learning how to be in your own body, that you're learning how to fully inhabit all of who you are, that you're allowing yourself to know that the experience of you is yours to play with, to explore, to manifest. It will be your greatest creation, your greatest experience. To allow the truth of who you are, who you really are, to be fully expressed in this life will be the satisfaction that you have been searching and seeking in all the wrong places. And when you can fully activate your own being, when you are fully expressed, when you are truly moving through the world, seeing it through your own lens, hearing it, tasting it, smelling it, moving with it in a way that is completely unique to you, then I truly believe what we are supposed to do here, the understanding of our purpose, will be obvious. It won't be something that we have to constantly strive to understand. It won't seem like it is so hidden from us. It will become more obvious because the way that we see the world, the way that we interact with the world, the way that we communicate with the world becomes a pure expression of who we truly are. And I believe the world will communicate back to us with the same clarity, with the same purity, with the same kind of recognition that we're here and that we're ready and that we are who we have always been designed to be, rather than just another version of somebody else. All right. My long ramble for today is coming to an end. I find it really hard to communicate on these things. But there is this, like, it's a sacred rage within me as I wake up every day. And I wonder for how much longer I'm going to be able to show up and pretend that I care about things that I don't really fucking care about, or how much I'm going to allow myself to be in conversations about things that really ultimately don't matter, or how much I'm going to pretend that I don't feel like it's really hard to be here in this life, in this way, playing a game, like I said, that isn't fun. I didn't make up these rules. I don't want to play this game. But yet here I am, hoping and believing that maybe this sacred rage within me is necessary to stoke the fire within you, not to make you hate the world or hate, anything. That's not my intention, but stoke the fire within you to let that genuine blaze of who you truly are become activated, burn a little brighter, because we need the warmth of who you are in this world. I'm sure of it. All right, I'm going to leave it there today.